Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel and welcome back to the Capital Insights Brief Update video. In this video, we wanted to share with you a recent Economist survey of payments fragmentation, which argues that the American financial dominance has begun to crack, with the card networks as the first casualties. In this brief, we do accept the observation. However, we also add a distinction that the coverage leaves implicit. The layer that is fragmenting is not the layer where American financial power actually resides. With this, let's do a deep dive into the surface and the core, the payment sovereignty meeting dollars deep plumbing. Let's start with the observation first. Economist account is very straightforward. As Washington makes access to the dollar and the US economy conditional rather than automatic, the Treasury is swimming of economic statecraft. Governments across geopolitical spectrum are now moving to reduce dependence on the payment trails that Washington can reach. The Economist piece traces three routes: building native instant payment systems, for example, Brazil's CIPS, Europe's SEPA and Biro, and a prospective digital euro, routing through Chinese infrastructure, CIPS, and the digital yuan corridors, and stitching bilateral links between national systems, for example, India's UPI. Visa and MasterCard are cast as the first casualties, and their 50% plus operating margins exposed as domestic systems receive preferential treatment. The trigger out here: a US tariff threat over PIX and Brazil's cross-party refusal to concede. And this captures a shift from adversaries' concern to near-universal policy instinct. With this background and context, let's do a deep dive into the distinction, the surface and the core. The analysis holds, but its scope warrants precision. What is fragmenting is the payment surface, the retail and the interbank rails on which the transactions are messaged and settled. This is the most substitutable layer of the stack. QR code routing, instant payment schemes, and domestic card networks are, in engineering terms, replicable. A determined state can stand one up within a few years, as FIX and UPI have shown. The dollar's structural role rests on a different layer: the depth of treasury collateral, the availability of the dollar funding under stress, correspondent banking relationships, and the currency's default position in trade invoicing and reserve holdings are not properties of any single rail. They are network effects accumulated over decades, and they do not transfer when a payment is rerouted through either CIPS or PIX. The survey notes in passing that debate had centered on the dollar before shifting to payments. The more exact reading is that policymakers pivoted towards payment because the payment layer is the one that yields to effort. The core so far has not. Let's try and understand as to why does the surface yield first. Now, there are two constraints that explain the sequencing. The first is substitutability. Replicating a messaging and settlement rail is bounded engineering problem, while replicating deep liquid dollar funding markets is not. The second is liquidity. Alternative corridors are throttled by thin liquidity in non-dollar currency pairs. A payment can be rerouted, but if the receiving currency cannot be funded or hedged at scale, the corridor carries limited volume. This is actually the binding constraint on yuan internationalization and CIPS expansion threads. Record CIPS volumes are real and rising, but they run alongside the dollar's funding depth and not yet through it. The material point for the allocators is that two distinct horizons are being compressed into one narrative out here. The near-term horizon is a margin story. Sovereign and preferential domestic systems are a structural headwind to the card duopoly's international economics, and both networks have flagged the risk in their own disclosures. This is observable now, and it's a symptom rather than a system-level shift. The long-dated horizon is the reserve fragmentation thesis, the wager that erosion at the payment surface eventually reaches the funding and the reserve core. That transmission is not mechanical, and its timeline is measured in cycles rather than in quarters. Reading the card network margin pressure as evidence of imminent dollar displacement conflates the two and overstates the near-term signal out here. The disciplined position holds them apart. Track the surface as it moves and treat the core as a slower variable requiring its own evidence. Let's wrap this brief video update by connecting the threads out here. Now, payment sovereignty and reserve diversification are the same instinct expressed at two altitudes. A government building PIX to keep retail flows off reachable rails, and a reserve manager accumulating gold to hold lost outside any single issuer system are both reducing dependence on the infrastructure that another state can condition. This is the thorough line on the BRICS financial plumbing and the reserve fragmentation, and it connects to the reserve manager archetype that we have shared with you in the gold stack. Gold functions as the base layer precisely because it sits beneath the payments and funding architecture entirely. The surface is where the contest is visible and the core is where it is settled. That's all that we wanted to share with you on this brief video update. Stay tuned then for our next one.